my cartoons deal with wildlife, ecology, conservation, so all things green. I used to doodle on textbooks, and normally a student would get into a lot of trouble for that. But my English teacher would take those, those comic drafts back home. She would read them and she would give me a review the next day.
I'm Mugdha, and I welcome all of you to the second run-up event of Vidarbha Literary Festival. Technically the third, but second since the earlier one got postponed. So a little bit about Vidarbha Literary Festival. It is India's first non-fiction literary festival and the largest in central India. We function on lines similar to the other established literary festivals in the country, but with a difference. We have purely non-fiction authors who come to our festival, and we also promote local authors, local books, and give them a platform to talk about it here. So welcome once again. Today we have with us our moderator, Dr. Prantik Banerjee. He is a professor of English, and he tries to guide his students to romance with the language and also literature. He believes that you cannot be creative unless you are a habitual rule breaker. The Journal of Poetry Society of India, Pen International, Indian Literature Sahitya Academy, Brown Critic, Little Magazine, Stanza, Kavya Bharati, and E-Zines, all of them have published his work. His two poetry books are Postscript on Missing Keys and Crossing the Line. He has been shortlisted 3 times in the All India Poetry Competition held by the British Council of India. He has also been featured by the Femina magazine as the Poet of the Fortnight by the Sahitya Academy Award winner, the late Kamala Das. During the lockdown of the pandemic years, he wrote short stories that got published as The Keeper of the Dead. When he's not writing, he enjoys reading a lot, especially all things that we today know as pop culture. And he loves to travel a lot, especially where we can find buried stories and forgotten histories. So please welcome Dr. Prantik Banerjee. We've all written essays in school about global warming and the future of our planet. Or at least we've tried to participate in 1 or 2 of the tree plantation drives that happen here and there, right? But global warming, climate crisis, all of these words, they've become very common words. We read about it every day, we talk about it every day. Sustainability is another word that has become a part of our regular vocabulary. Our author, Rohan Chakravarty, put a creative twist on the conservation conversations. Interestingly, he was born and raised in Nagpur and is an Indian artist, cartoonist, illustrator, and naturalist. Go Comics picked up his green humor series in 2013, making him the first Indian cartoonist to be picked by a global comics distributor. Green humor has also been published as a book, as a series in 2 national newspapers and in places like Tinkle and by government departments in India, such as the Department of Environment and Forest of Arunachal Pradesh. He has won several awards for his work, and interestingly, just one trip to Nagzira Wildlife Sanctuary has started, and the first tiger sighting for him has started at all. His book, Green Humor for a Graying Planet, curates gag cartoons and comic strips based exclusively on wildlife and nature, perhaps the first of its kind. At a time when global warming, wildlife crimes, and man-animal conflicts are at their worst, this read definitely provides readers the much-needed comic relief. A comprehensive and satirical take on various aspects of the natural world and the threats to its conservation. The book definitely makes for a perfect light read about a very heavy topic. So please put your hands together for the author, Rohan Chakravarty. I would now like to request our moderator, Dr. Prantik Banerjee, to escort him to the stage. I hand over the conversation to both of you now, and we will have a slot for question and answers after this. So keep your questions ready. We'll pass the mic on to you later on.
Well, Rohan has already made a statement with this gesture, right? And a wonderful green statement already. I'm a rule breaker, so First of all, I can't tell you, Rohan, how delighted we are to have you with us. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, well, we are not in flight, but it's kind of Ripley's Believe It or Not that while Rohan has been making waves all across the world, starting with his cartoons and his comic illustrations, already winning a clutch of awards and being syndicated across social media, as well as many, many international magazines and journals. Our own homeboy, Nagpur people, I don't know, would probably come to know about him only today. I was just telling somebody that if you were to, be at a traffic signal and stop people and randomly ask, do you know Rohan Chakravarty? 9 out of 10 would say, who? And yet the world knows about Rohan. So Rohan, a big, big welcome to you.
Thank you, sir.
It's a homecoming. Better late than never. But I suppose also you could call it like a tiger cub. Like a tiger cub that has gone to Hyderabad, Rohan has come back to Nagpur and with what a roar. And that too to the tiger capital of India. Yeah. So welcome once again, Tiger.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I think what I would do, Rohan, with you is to take stump guard. We know that there is an India-Pakistan match going on, right? And I think because of his being primarily both a visual and a textual media, let's take stump guard with Rohan by putting something that I found wonderfully apt for today's opening statement. Of course, he's already made a statement. Can we have that cartoon? Rohan, this is a surprise even for you.
Oh, wow, okay. I did not expect this. Sorry to spoil the sport, pun intended.
No, it just goes to show that what we think about this nationwide madness or mania over 22 yards, what does it mean in the eyes of a cartoonist? Rohan, take us through, please. Yeah.
Well, I used to be a cricket fan, and thankfully or unfortunately, I don't know, T20 came in, and that just killed my interest in cricket once and for all. Now I have better things to do in life than waste an entire evening on an India-Pakistan match. And because I draw about sustainability, because I draw about conservation of resources, natural resources, sports, and the sheer wastefulness of a lot of sports that are very popular. Cricket just happens to be one. I would say the most wasteful sports are golf and F1, which are a gross waste of resource. So this is just one example. Because cricket is so popular in India, this comic, which was published in Sunday midday back in 2020, speaks about the unsustainability of the game. Let me also take the opportunity to thank all of you for missing a few hours of this very important game and showing up here. I was really not expecting such large numbers.
You're being too modest. But anyway, the book in conversation is really Rohan's book, which has a very interesting title. Those of you who probably have, as you walked in, you would have seen the books on display. And I love the title also because of the color code, green humor for a graying planet. Yeah? Graying planet. Yeah? Graying. What's the significance of these colors? Obviously, you have used it as a metaphor or something?
I'm really sorry, I'm going to disappoint you. I have nothing profound to say to that. It is the simplest thing. My cartoons deal with wildlife, ecology, conservation, so all things green. And graying because the planet is graying right in front of our, right under our noses. So it's really as simple as that.
Right. We have a very interesting story about how he started out. This marvelous journey. He's, the first thing that strikes me is when he's on the stage is among the many authors that VLF has hosted, I think he probably is one of the youngest. So therefore the word grey actually catches my eye. You have an interesting start to your career. From examining and studying teeth and cavities to, so how did you migrate from teeth and cavities to, paws and claws?
There's a very long answer to that question.
No, we are all very impatiently listening to you. So please go ahead.
I'll give you a shorter version of the story. Those who are interested in the long version can have a separate coffee with me and a separate conversation over it. But long story short, like every confused teenager from this city, I didn't know what to do with my life, and there wasn't much awareness back then that art can be a career in some form or the other. I'm not sure if that is the case even today. I'm guessing it is. And what really happened was that I followed my friends into medicine. This is the simplest story version of the story I can give to you. And just because everybody else was doing medicine and engineering, I thought one of these is for me. And engineering definitely was struck out because I still get nightmares about mathematics. That's something I really dread and wanted to escape. So I thought, medicine might be the way out, because I did have passing interest in biology. When I was asked to examine the first tobacco-stained mouth in my student life, that was when reality struck me. Nagpur is such a beautiful city. It has beautiful winter mornings, and to wake up on one and go straight to a tobacco-stained mouth was really not my idea of a career. I mean, no disrespect to the profession. It's a very noble profession. Sorry if there are any dentists out here. But it's just that it wasn't for me. And it was a very difficult and a very expensive course to get into. Pardon, with sincere apologies to my father, who has taken a lot of trouble to have me educated. But yeah, I realized midway that it wasn't for me. I went to a career counselor. This is a very interesting story, because the career counselor suggested that I become an orthodontist, design braces because I am good at art. The same career counselor hired me to draw cartoons 1 year later for her firm as advertisements. So those of you who are aspirants, please trust your gut and not career counselors. Again, no offense to career counselors. It's a very noble profession. Maybe I just happened to find the wrong one. And one thing led to another. My next, by the time I figured out that cartooning is something I want to do professionally, I got interested in animation. I worked in the animation industry for 4 years, and it was during that time that the cartooning and animation are more or less the same founding principles. So that kind of laid the foundations for what I do today. Animation also got mundane after a point, because I was mostly getting corporate assignments, corporate gigs, advertising for recently launched softwares and products. That wasn't something I enjoy. And it was in 2014 that I plunged into full-time cartooning, and green humor had begun to appear in a lot of media by then. And that's how I'm here today.
Great. You apologize to practically every vocation, every career, right from career counselors. You forgot to apologize to your teachers, man. that you became the artist and the creative cartoonist, not despite, or maybe despite or in spite of your teachers.
Actually, my teachers from school have a very big role to play, because Centrepoint School, back then at least, used to encourage a lot of extracurricular activities, and there was a lot of emphasis on art per se. And even though I had horrible math teachers, I hope this session is not being recorded. Oh, great.
It is.
Okay, please edit that. I had very good English teachers, very good language teachers, and one of them, Miss Rekha Rao, she's no more sadly, but she used to take my work back. I used to doodle on textbooks, and normally a student would get into a lot of trouble for that. But my English teacher would take those, those comic drafts back home. She would read them and she would give me a review the next day. And that was really, it meant a lot to me as a young student. Yeah.
I couldn't quite, which teacher you said in particular?
Rekha Rao, ma'am.
No. What was her
English,
subject?
English.
Yeah.
Which quite naturally ended up being one of my favorite languages and subjects to learn. Yeah.
Okay. No, but that, what you just said, when you first broke the news to your family, your friends, did they break down when you said that you're going to make a career move from dentistry to cartooning, or you wouldn't have actually said cartooning. You would have said that, I love love doodling at the back when the class is in progress. Did they break down on your breaking news?
Actually, no, I've had very supportive parents, thankfully. Even though they've never quite understood what I'm up to, they've supported me through all my mistakes I've made in life and still continue to do so. Fortunately, my mother's no more, but she's had a very profound influence on my journey because she was into the creative side of things as well. She wrote, she taught language, English specifically, briefly management and law as well. She was also, I would say, a hobbies journalist. She acquired a diploma in journalism, wrote for a few local publications, and just watching her go about her day and her work, kind of established a belief in the fact that the creative side of things can also be made into careers. So yeah, she's played a very big role in my life. Even my father, who's present here today, has been a pillar of support, and I don't think any of these publications would have been possible had he not volunteered to just sit and babysit my young dogs while I was traveling and gathering information for all the literature. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, it brings us back to the, it's a kind of every parent's trauma, not even stress, but trauma to try and figure out what the child is good at. And sometimes both family expectations, parental expectations, and peer pressure sometimes also quite often takes our young children to a different track altogether. So far as your art is concerned, generally, this is not my perception, but generally, especially in India, there is a kind of a general perception that, it doesn't quite make it to the top with the other arts, let's say, music, painting. So there is also kind of a mindset, which I totally agree, which I feel is a very negative mindset, which thinks that cartooning is not really being, a cartoonist is not a serious artist, a cartoonist is somebody who doodles to make us go ha ha and he, and that's all there is to it. Rohan's work, incidentally, some of you who have seen it only as a trailer or a reel right now, smashes that stereotype. It kind of, busts this myth. Because whatever he does, those of you whom I would strongly recommend not just read this book, Green Humor for a Graying Planet, but even go on his homepage, which is Green Humor, and take a look at his cartoons. For every cartoon, for every page that you turn, you will get a giggle, you'll get a laugh, and sometimes you will even gnash your teeth. Not at him, but with him, at the kind of things that you realize you and I are doing to planet Earth, absolutely despoiling nature's resources and this wonderful planet Earth by leaving behind our carbon footprint in one way or the other. So, so when I go through your cartoons, and I've been going in the lead up to this program almost every day, and sharing a lot with my own students in Hislop, your cartoons have become a bigger draw than what I teach in the classroom now. And if we can run one of the cartoons, please, C2, the next one. This is my selection, Rohan. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Just take a look at this. A single picture has more power and more impact than 1,000 words. And these two cartoons of his, tell us what the big picture is and not what the Bigfoot is. Absolutely amazing. So your cartoons, hit the mark, much like, shall I say, our other homeboy who has returned, Ojas Deotale's arrows, right, straight onto the target. Have you always been a bird watcher from school? And I mean it in a what's the word? Ornithologist sense. Yeah. Have you been somebody only about birds and bees in school also?
The other kind, yes. The serious kind developed much later in life. While I was looking at teeth, I probably felt the need to look at something toothless, and that's how birding happened. Yeah.
Can we have that another cartoon of his? Yeah. Take a look at this, friends.
Not sure if all of you at the back are able to see the screen. Okay.
Is it visible to everyone, even at the back? Yeah? All right. What's your favorite? You know, we were just discussing as we were sitting there. He's written a book called Bird Business. This was before Green Humor.
Before Green Humor.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us something about that book.
Sure. So, bird business, I'm a hobbyist bird watcher. I go out bird watching every once in a while. And I've been doing this for the last more than 17, 18 years. And in my journey as a bird watcher, I figured that there are a lot of information lacunae in this kind of discourse about birds, because all that books tell you about birds is how to identify them. And lay people like me and you may not be interested in that. We would probably be more interested in knowing what a bird means to us, right? How it interacts with the environment and how it interacts with its own immediate surroundings and resources. So that's what bird business is about. It's about 100 birds from India and how they interact with their environment, their habitats, what is the kind of food they eat, what is the kind of plumage they dress up in when they are breeding or courting their mates. And it's my attempt to pull more people into observing birds and not just learning to identify them and leave it at it.
Great. So among the 100 birds that these are all Indian birds, right?
Yes, they are all Indian birds.
Which one is your favorite bird, and which one is among the bird sanctuaries? Which one is your favorite bird sanctuary?
My favorite bird, the answer to that question keeps changing every week. But I'll tell you about one that has been consistent. It's the Oriental honey buzzard. And it has a funny Nagpur connection. In a poll conducted, I think, 10 years earlier, it won the informal title of the bird of Nagpur. Because it occurs in our city in very good numbers, especially around the civil lines area.
What's the name again?
The Oriental honey buzzard. It looks like an eagle, but with a pigeon neck. So it's a very odd looking creature. And it's got that pigeon neck because it hunts bees and beehives. It preys on beehives so that it can get the larvae of honeybees from the hives. And that's why it has a thin neck. And because it is found in good numbers in Nagpur, it also indicates that Nagpur is a green city which has a lot of wild bees. And so it is an indicator of sorts for our city as well. And if you've noticed, at the GPO square, there is a beautiful sculpture put up by the Nico group of this bird as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Wow, what a connection. We didn't know that. Right. So did you read Salim Ali in school?
Vaguely, yes. Vaguely. Not very seriously. I was a very odd student. In school, I used to go to the library only to read about weapons and warfare. I'm really glad I'm not a dictator right now.
Talking again of schools and what we read in school, Amar Chitra Kathaएं, Panchatantra, all about, I'm talking specifically about comic illustrations that carried birds as fables. So Amar Chitra Katha, then Chanda Mama, Did you grow up reading them?
Absolutely not, no. I never liked Indian comics other than R.K. Lakshman's work. Never really consumed Tinkle or Amar Chitra Katha, not a big fan even today. The kind of stuff I grew up on was, Gary Larson. And he did this, probably the most widely distributed cartoon series called The Far Side. And his use of humor is what really struck me as, offbeat, because he would use a lot of offensive and dark punches, and he would just pass the censor boards and the edit table. And I had a difficult time understanding how he could do that. But I think it all boiled down to a certain class that he had as an artist and a communicator, and that's something that has influenced and is still an influence on my work as well.
That's surprising. I thought Bill Watterson would be one of your influences.
Yes, he is too. But yeah. Bill Watterson's work is something I picked up much later in life as a late teen person, because his humor is quite difficult to understand for younger people.
So how many types of humors? I mean, yours is a green humor, right? So how many, are there different types of humor? We are talking of, for instance, you mentioned dark, right? Black humor.
I'm not qualified to classify humor as such, but as far as my experience with my own work goes, I do experiment with humor a lot, and humor, especially, I haven't read much, humor in literature, but I've watched a lot of humor in cinema, and some of my, my most favorite films happen to be The King of Comedy, Gulzar's Angur, and many of them happen to be comedies. Some slapstick as well, like Andaz Apna Apna, which is a timeless classic.
Jaane Bhi Do Yaro.
Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, yes, very much so. And so there is a certain timing of humor that you learn when you watch cinema repeatedly. And because I've had a history in animation as well, I've spent a lot of time on the edit table. So editing films, especially something like animation, which is supposed to be funny, editing really teaches you how to rhythm, put your humor into a rhythm, and how to time your punches and your gags. So I think all that has kind of shaped up the sort of humor and the experiments with humor that I keep doing in green humor cartoons.
Do we Indians have a good sense of humor?
Some of you, yes.
No, this is a pointed question.
India could do with a better sense of humor given the times we are.
Yeah. No, we're good at
witnessing.
laughing at others, but not at ourselves. Right. Talking about humor, I say this, because I was surprised. Just a couple of weeks back, I was traveling to Bhopal. And, one of our favorite go-to before we boarded our train was Wheeler. So Wheeler and Company, the stalls of book stalls on railway stations have disappeared. And one of my favorite travel companions used to be Khushwant Singh's joke books. So at Bhopal, finally I found a Wheeler and Company stall. So when I went there and I said, I don't find any cartoons here, any joke books. The man told me that they have been taken off by the railway board. Why? Because Khushwant Singh, the Sardar's jokes were found to be too coarse by the board, the railway board. Since when has the railway board become the deciding, the censor board of India's humor?
Well, we have all kinds of authorities censoring all kinds of things these days, so this is not coming across as a surprise to me.
So therefore I was talking about, different colors and different types of humor. I remember, even today I was going through this wonderful selection of his cartoons. And there is one particular outstanding one. We don't have it. I couldn't share the cartoon with you. It has a caption called One Advantage of Being an Endangered Animal. And it is about leopards. And there is a there's a male leopard. You will allow me. There's a male leopard telling the female leopard, I'll come straight to the point. Let's mate. Because we only have 22 more living. So, therefore, there are patches of not just green humor, but blue humor as well in his books. Okay. Where do you fetch what you sketch? In other words, what I'm asking is, you look at Rohan Chakravarty's books, they're not just ha-ha and he. It's not just about cartoon and comic illustrations. There is some serious research work going on here. It means that there is, cartooning, I realized, is serious study and intensive researching. Because, I'm a research supervisor also. So, in research we say fact verification and source validation. I don't think whatever you put up here, you could say that, a little bird told me. I'm sure, what are the go-to sources? What kind of research is involved serious research is involved in your cartoons?
I'd say cartooning, my kind of cartooning at least, is serious research without taking yourself seriously, which probably ends up as cartoons that way. And yes, it does involve little birds telling me a lot of things, because I go bird watching and on nature trails to gather a lot of inspiration and motivation as well for doing what I do. So when I'm in Nagpur, it's a daily routine to go to Lourdes Mata Mandir in Seminary Hills and watch that scops owl roosting there. I don't know how many of you know that there is an owl that roosts there every day without fail and attends mass as well. I'm not sure about the religious inclinations of the owl, but it happens to be there. So birds are a tremendous source of inspiration for my comics. Every time I bump into an interesting creature, I make sure that it ends up as a comic strip. But when there is science involved, when there is research, when I talk about research, when I talk about ecology, it usually involves taking something complex, maybe the discovery of a new invertebrate, a worm or a lizard, and breaking down into very simple and visual language about how it happened and what are the interesting things that you and I as lay people can take away from. I have this recurring complaint about the way news and information is consumed in this country, because if any of you has gone to the terrace recently and taken a good look at the sky, you'll have noticed that golden dragonflies are swarming in our city. And these golden dragonflies are very special creatures. They're called globe skimmers, and they are called so for a reason, because they traverse the entire longitudinal length between Japan, the northern latitudes, and central India to come here and eat mosquitoes at this time of the year when they abound. And that dragonfly is responsible directly for our good health. And yet we know so little about, the globe skimmer, and we know about the private lives of Ranveer Singh and Alia Bhatt and who else. So that is something I have a big grouch about. And, I try to turn things around one cartoon at a time. I don't know how much I succeed, but I can assure you that people who do read my comics in the newspapers, they reach out to me with feedback. Some of it, very encouraging. A little bit also constructive criticism once in a while, which I humbly accept. But it is very touching for a person like me to know that stuff like this is reaching people's homes and is being consumed.
Can we have another of his cartoons here? Some of the things that comes by way of humor in Rohan's cartoons are some amazing facts, tell me why series kind of facts. And this is one thing I thought I'll put up, because this is amazing. Sighting a leopard 3,700 meters in Nagaland, making it the highest sighting of the species in the world. And I love that caption, the last one, which says that now that we've been driven and hunted out of most of our range, I've been trying to access cloud storage. I mean, how witty is that? How witty is that? A big hand to him.
Well, thanks to the clouded leopard, it gave me the pun on a platter, yeah.
Every cartoonist has his own unique style. We had a cafe next to Hislop in Chittavis Center where Mario Miranda's artwork was all there on the walls. So whether we are talking about R.K. Lakshman, we are talking of Mario Miranda, or somebody like Ajit Nayanan, what's your style? What would you call, how will you describe your style of cartooning? Minimalist, experimentalist, or what?
Never thought about this.
Finally, I got you.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a bit tongue-tied.
No.
If I can just call it Rohan Chakravarty's in a few decades, I think.
Well said. Right. Personally, again, can we go back to the previous cartoon? I remember seeing every Sunday, the Spider-Man series and the Superman series. Is that a bird? Look at the deliciously wicked way in which he has completely inversed the narrative by saying, Superman saying, is it a bird? And Superman saying, well, big fan of your work, sir. I mean, one of the most fascinating things that I enjoy about your work is the 1001 references that you do to what was introduced, pop culture, right? Uh, Movies, songs, what else? Yeah, a whole lot of other comic books, intertextuality. There is one cartoon that we can show, which I found very. I want to play it here. The next one, please. This for me was an aha moment as I was leafing through his book. You know, we all remember Steven Spielberg's Jaws. And look how brilliantly Rohan has turned the entire narrative upside down, because back then in Steven Spielberg's Jaws, the famous film, it's the shark that is to be most afraid of, that the human is scared of. It's just the other way around. And I love the caption also, a terrifying motion picture based on stats directed by shark. Brilliant, I say brilliant, brilliant. Cartooning is also the art of controversy, no? Tell us something about when a cartoon got you into trouble.
So many times, practically every day on the internet. But I'll first talk a bit about pop culture, because you know that's one of the most exciting parts of what I do, combining ecology, things that people should care about in my view, with with things that people don't care about, do care about, which is pop culture. You know, so Ranveer Singh and Alia Bhatt, for example, they have never made it to my comics, thankfully, but more deserving stars have. And I do keep referencing, you know, movies, music every once in a while. There's this comic that compares the Oriental magpie robin to Mohammad Rafi, because it's one of the most melodious neighborhood birds, and Mohammad Rafi happens to be my favorite singer of all time. So, but sadly also I've been noticing that there is an entire generation of readers coming into the picture who will not know about Jaws, about Mohammad Rafi anymore, and then I will have nowhere to go. So as means of, you know, my homework and my research, it also involves trying to speak to people who understand internet pop culture, who understand memes, who understand hashtags, and then figure out, like I recently figured out what OOTD means on the internet. Outfit of the day, yeah. And then there was a comic I did for DW News. It's a German news channel that runs my work every fortnight. And we decided to tackle the unsustainability of the fashion industry, and how fashion influencers on Instagram are influencing this whole you know, industrial rush to consume more fast fashion. So I tried to reverse the hashtag and give it a new full form, which was outfit of terminal doom. And that's how I try to play around with, you know, what we call pop culture today on the internet as well. And yeah, as far as controversies are concerned, every single time there is a confluence between conservation and governance. That is when I'm likeliest to get into trouble, because there is a lot of polarization on the internet, and you know, especially you know, after 2020, I don't know what changed, but the polarization, the levels of polarization you see on the internet are very unfortunate, because you know, there are blind spots between factions, and you know, these blind spots did not used to be something that was common earlier in the 90s when I grew up, because everybody read newspapers no matter what side of politics they belong to. And with the internet, you know, because we rely on hashtags and we rely on trends to access our news, there are blind spots that we don't consume news with regards to. So even that is something that I would like to change with cartoons, because it is a more visual medium. The humor presented in cartoons is, I would say, it is like a kiss on one cheek and a slap on the other. You know, it kind of, it delivers a blow, but it softens the blow as well. And then you question, why have I been slapped? So that's what I'm trying to get at.
Very aptly said. So when you sketch, do you sketch with HB pencils and erasers, or is it something that belongs to the last millennium? For people like us,
No,
actually.
I still depend on pencils very much. But the reason is a lot different than what you might be expecting. I use pencils because I believe they are far more sustainable than a pen made of plastic. Thankfully, my work does not depend on traditional media, which I'm quite bad at. The ideation always begins on paper with a pencil, but the final product that you see is colored on Adobe Photoshop with this hardware called a pen tablet. It's a graphics tablet. Whatever I draw on the surface translates digitally to the screen. Yeah.
Is it a lot of catching up that you have to do when you migrate from, let's say, the print, cartooning and syndicating your cartoons from print media? Because I believe, I'm not sure whether what I'm saying is correct, that the space in print media for cartoons are shrinking every day. So is it tough for a cartoonist like you, who favors, I believe, the print media, to migrate to the digital media?
It's been a nightmare, to be honest. The reason is all my idols that I grew up reading were in the print. So I've always aspired to be in the print. And suddenly the print didn't know what to do with cartoonists. And this happened around the same time, 2019, 2020 was when the crisis hit India, the Indian market. And yeah, because ad money stopped coming in because of COVID, the most dispensable features of the newspaper that the editor thought was the most consumed, which is cartoons. I don't know how they did the math, but this is what happened. And yeah, even I lost a few columns around the time. Thankfully, I still have one in the Hindu, which appears every Sunday. But I have had to branch into the internet to make this a sustainable and a viable career option. And thankfully, I would still say that the internet does not know what to do with cartoonists, because there is absolutely no way to monetize cartoons on the internet. Whatever you see on my social media at least is stuff that has been published in the print. And I put them up on social media so that there is a wider outreach. People can know about the existence of my work, if nothing else. And but yeah, social media has its ups and downs. It has resulted in better viewership in foreign countries because Indian newspapers are not accessible there, and it has also resulted in a lot of meaningful collaborations, like the column with DW I was referring to happened because of social media. But right now, the trend is that the emphasis of social media is towards videos and reels, and now again, a person like me who's rather obsolete and from a different generation who does not know how to make reels and put herself out there. My publishers at Penguin keep telling me to make reels with the book, and I don't know how a person is supposed to make a reel with the book. Do I just hold it and dance? So yeah, I have no idea what to do with the internet again suddenly. And if youngsters present here have any tips for me, I'd love to hear them after the session.
He just said that he feels he's obsolete. If he's obsolete, I'm a museum piece. What am I doing here?
I can say that you're the chief crowd puller here because...
Rohan, I mean, you're giving me a left-handed... All right. One of the most interesting, fascinating dimensions of Rohan's work is the fact that he is not just a cartoonist or a comic illustrator, but he's also somebody who, if I may so, is a can I call you a green cartographer? Because he maps.
A cartoonographer would be more.
Well said, well put. Yeah. So he's a green cartoonographer. Okay, thank you for that word. He's a green cartoonographer because he also draws biodiversity maps. Like when you walked in, you probably saw a biome of India, all the national parks, and also one on Nagpur. I think it should be prominently displayed at all traffic signals, as signages, his maps, I'm saying, to let us know in those 30 seconds, oh my goodness, we didn't know that we had such urban diversity, biodiversity even in Nagpur. So,
well, maps are something that have been a pet project for a while now because, like I mentioned, I was into animation. So it's not just the humor of art that interests me, but also things like cartography. Maps especially have been, as a youngster I consumed a lot of encyclopedias with beautiful maps in them, and they've always caught my attention, and I always wanted to do maps. And when I became interested in wildlife, I noticed that maps have rarely ever addressed this kind of communication, and that was again a communication gap where I wanted to pitch in and bridge it. So this started, the series of maps that I do started with a very interesting place called Pake Tiger Reserve. It's in Arunachal Pradesh. Not very well known, but extremely pristine, extremely wild. And there is a very special indigenous community called the Nishis that lives there. Nishis earlier used to hunt hornbills. Now they're involved in conserving them along with the forest department and various scientific organizations. So my job as a creative consultant for the forest department and an organization working there was to represent this interdependence of Nishis and the wildlife and present them as a single interdependent component. And that was the first map I did, which was on Pake Tiger Reserve. Now I have a portfolio of about 35 to 40 maps, some of which include India, Bhutan, Hong Kong, the Greater Bay Area and China, etc. Yep.
Wonderful. As again, talking about terms, as a biographer of animals, I was reading the acknowledgement page, which funnily appears at the back of your book. Normally, acknowledgement pages are at the beginning.
I guess I'm a bit of a rule breaker too.
You're a bit like your pangolin.
It's my spirit animal because it curls up into a ball when it sees a threat. That's how you'll find me at a family gathering.
There you are. Instead of a sofa, we should have given him a curl on bed. Okay, that's very interesting. I just thought, this was just a hunch, and there you are. In the acknowledgements, among the many things, many people that you have acknowledged, I found that you also acknowledged the canine breed.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I was asking him that when he came to Nagpur from Hyderabad, he came by road, so did he bring his dogs along? Yeah, not the dogs of war, his dogs, right. And I find the names of your dogs very interesting. Can I, yeah? So he's got 13 dogs, he acknowledges 13 dogs in the acknowledgement page, right? And dogs that carry, no surprise, one of his dogs he calls Lakshman. I'm saying VVS Lakshman or RK Lakshman?
Influenced by RK, definitely.
Influenced, yeah. The other is Sunny. I mean, you just said that you are not a cricket buff. And there is, Sunil Gavaskar going to the dogs.
No, absolutely. No. This was more to do with Sunny Deol and not Gavaskar.
Achha, Sunny Deol.
It's a very bulky dog.
Right. Hello. Somebody is getting ideas. Which dog did you call Wall-E and why?
Oh, Wall-E
Wall-E. A hyphenated word.
Wall-E is actually an animated film. It's a little robo that goes to Mars. And my wife's family has a pet dachshund, a rescued one that looks like a little robo. So he's called Wall-E.
See, I can see those faces that showed an absolute, understanding of what you just said. And there were a few befuddled faces. Normally, Sachin has a befuddled face. I have a confused face. We couldn't connect with what you said. But never mind, that generation gap. I'll next time wear a Gap t-shirt. All right.
That joke.
Well, you're the hero of the day. You can get away with any of your jokes or with your cartoons also.
I forgot to put a hashtag in there.
All right. This is about your readership. Yeah. And I was on your webpage. I was practically, being the teacher and the researcher, I did a lot of digging. You call your readers at once somewhere as scrollers. Scrollers. Why is that? Scroll meaning, what?
Scrolling.
Yeah. So why is that? Is it because of the deficit attention span?
Exactly. I complain in the introduction to Pug Marks and Carbon Footprints that the culture of reading has become a culture of scrolling, which is why nuance in communication is something we are losing out on. And I hope that with condensing communication into visuals and into something that is funny to look at, I hope that the culture of understanding and engaging with nuance in a particular discourse returns in, our culture of reading things.
Right. Yeah. And I absolutely agree with you because, today's kids, when I say kids, I mean my college kids also. They seem to know more about Yellowstone National Park than Kanha. They seem to know more about the big bad wolf than Rikki Tikki Tavi.
Right.
You know, the things that... and it's not generation gap, is it? I mean, it's just simply the culture of reading that is probably, you know, or deep thinking or deep reading that is probably getting as endangered as many of the others.
I also also complain because of my experience with, discourse about conservation and even governance. The kind of communication that I tackle is never black or white. It is always grey. And to understand and engage with grey, you cannot expect to have a real attention span and understand everything that I'm presenting to you. So you have to be, as a reader, you have to be open, you have to be observant about words, about surroundings, and that's how, I expect my readers to absorb whatever I am presenting, hence the complaint.
Absolutely, yeah. The brand of humor that I find in Rohan's cartoons are, it isn't just instantaneous spurt of laughter, but you think twice, and then when you get it, then you roll in laughter, because it's absolutely satire, wit, and humor all mixed together. Brilliant. So, are you also a good wildlife photographer?
Absolutely not, no. I'm terrible with the camera, but I use it just for keeping a memory or keeping a record of things.
Okay. Yeah, because, the verbs that come to my mind when I think of you, stalker, hunter, shooter, bird watcher, of course, angler, and I thought that maybe photography with zoom lens would be one of...
Stalker is a new one. The rest I've heard.
Okay. All right. Why Chakravarty and not Chakravarty?
Oh, that's a question my family can answer, because each of them have different ways of spelling their surnames, even though they are related by blood to one another.
No, because
I frankly don't know the answer.
I say this because there is no V sound in Bengali. It's, Bo. So when I saw how you spelled your name, blame it on your family. That's all right. But when you are introduced in so many forums, is it like Chakravarty or Chakravarty?
Well, like all proper nouns, I leave it to the discretion of the the person announcing my name.
Okay. Are you a vegetarian? A non-vegetarian, or a prefetarian?
I'm an opportunist. But I'm also somebody who worries about the sustainability of what I'm eating. So seafood, for example, I've done a lot of work on bycatch and understanding bycatch, and how the consumption of seafood is motivated as a community, as politics, and that is something I'm really passionate about as well. So you'll only find me consuming seafood when I'm sure that the source is directly from an artisanal part of the industry and not a mechanized representative. So, and that is something I've also tried to advocate with my comics and cartoons as well.
I'm going to pull you in a deep net.
Oh,
then.
sure.
So when the famous hilsa fish lands up at your dinner table, do you have pangs of conscience?
No, I do not consume hilsa.
You don't?
No.
Then you are not a Bengali.
I know, I'm a blot. I'm a blot to this community, because I have done a comic that discourages people from consuming hilsa, that too during the festive season when the demand is at its highest, because it is at a point where it is going to break the neck of the supply chain.
So next time you're not going to be, if you are invited in the Kolkata Literary Festival, people will kill you there on stage if you say this.
Ready to be slaughtered in place of the hills.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're not cartooning, what are you doing?
I find walks with my two dogs, Shrishti and Sakshi, very meditative, and they're the best start to the day that I can get, because sometimes my wife, when I'm in Hyderabad, my wife also joins us, and we go on a mini nature exploration and bird walk with our dogs, and that also kind of sets the rhythm for the rest of my day, what I'm going to draw about, and what ideas I'm going to get. So that's something I do very passionately and very religiously every single day. I also sing a little. I like to cook, and because I work from home and my wife has a job, I ensure that her tiffin's ready every morning before she...
How nice. Okay. So, what are your future projects?
I'm doing a very exciting illustration on the mountains and biodiversity of Nepal. It's for the International Mountain Museum in Pokhara. So that's something I'm really engaged in with all my being. And over the last few maps that I've drawn, I've started to feel the need to represent the local art and the native art symbolism and art culture in my illustration. So I've been doing fusions of various art styles with my own cartoon style. And this particular project took me to the studio of a Pobha artist in Kathmandu. Pobha, if you might know the Himalayan Thanka art, Pobha is a predecessor to that art form. And it involves a lot of iconography, understanding Buddhist and early Hindu in ancient art and what those icons stand for, and trying to incorporate all of that into my illustration. So it's a very complex project, and I hope it will take good shape. Yeah.
We look forward to that. So now that two Bengalis have been doing Adda for such a long time, and I'm sure there's plenty of questions that the audience has. So what I leave is with a wish from all of us, that may your green humor take you to not only green land or greener pastures, but may your green humor in the future bring you continental drifts of green bucks as well. Monetize, you use the word monetize.
Thank you, sir. I could really do with that.
And may we have you back in the near future as a winner of the top international award for cartooning, that is the Reuben Award.
Thank you.
It's been a delight and a pleasure. You can't imagine how much I've enjoyed, and I'm sure our audience have enjoyed having you here.
The honor has been mine.
So much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Rohan.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll throw the forum to the audience, and I'm sure they have plenty of questions to ask you.
So you did not, you forgot to mention the favorite bird sanctuary right now that you have.
Yes, Eagle Nest Wildlife Sanctuary. To answer this question, Eagle Nest is again in West Arunachal, and it is home to one of India's rarest birds, the Bugun leochikla. This bird is named after the Bugun community, and it was discovered as late as 2006. And I was fortunate to witness, have a sighting of this bird on my very first day in Eagle Nest. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And the question is, as a writer, it is really heartening to know that your both books are published by Penguin. Like Penguin and Harper are the big daddies of publishing. So for the aspiring writers, how would you like to tell us that how to get published by the likes of Penguins or Harpers, and what is your journey of getting published by Penguin?
It involved 8 rejections by various publishers and once by Penguin as well. The first time I pitched Green Humor for a Graying Planet taught me something really important, that failure is a very acceptable part of the journey, because had it not been those 8 rejections, I would not have liked this book. When I look back at what I pitched first, I don't identify with it anymore. So I'm really glad that the 8 rejections happened, and I think that's something that readers from the coming generations will have a very tough time accepting, because there's a trend among school kids to be published authors at the age of 9 and 10, and if they are becoming bestsellers at that age and later planning to go slightly bigger and more professional, I don't know how they'll handle rejection. So that's something that writers should learn and imbibe.
Yeah, hello. My name is Ashutosh Paturkar. It was very enriching experience to learn from somebody who is obsolete and somebody who is a museum piece. I never knew, so we would like to know that.
I think birds were empathetic to me, and I'm just returning the favor. I've had major anger management issues growing up, and it was bird watching that really calmed me down and
developed a green humor, because and at the same time, there is a second question that I want to ask, like how do you save yourself from scrolling when you go into the folly, taking the cameras on and capturing pics and all? So how do you maintain yourself?
Answer the second part of your question. I don't know actually. I've never just gotten into the habit of doom scrolling, because I'll stop drawing, and maybe that's what has kept a little bit of the sanity as well intact.
Hello. Yeah, so we all are aware after reading the book that you are slightly unhappy with the current situation. And
Slightly is an understatement.
so I wanted to ask that if you were a policy maker, what policy would you initiate to change what is happening right now?
I would not be a policymaker. I don't think I'm cut out for it. I would like to think that I have better things to do in life than sit in the environment ministry with the AC in full blast and sign clearance papers. But yeah, if I were that, I would change that first. No ACs in the environment ministry office. And my chief complaint with governance in India is that science is not a part of it. Science is not a serious or active part of it. And that is something I really would like, people in positions of authority to maybe take away from my work a little bit, because that is something I advocate for very strongly. I think when Niti Aayog, the chief think tank for development in India, makes a decision, ecology is never considered. You look at a Great Nicobar port or a port in Kochi or a dam in Arunachal, and you will know that the EIA, the environment impact assessment that has been done for that particular area, is just namesake. There is no actual science involved, and that is something I would really like to change. That is something I would want people to look back and say that okay, we have made a mistake, and that there is still room for a course correction. And that's something I really hope to bring in with my cartoons in a small way.
First of all, hi Rohan. My question to you is mostly your work is of a satirical tone, like I've seen it. So if suppose you were to start all over, which tone would you rather choose? Like more of a fairy tale or any other tone?
I would do the same thing again. I guess this is something I've really enjoyed, and I aspired to be a singer once. I was very interested in music, but when I found something that I enjoyed even more than music, that aspiration took a backseat. So I don't think there's any replacement for what I do in my life as yet. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. My name is Arushi Chakravarty. I happen to be one of Prantik sir's students, and he invited me.
That's why you pronounce Chakravarty the correct way, right?
Sir, I am also a self-taught artist, and while my work is not satirical comics like yours, I am more into the standalone illustration type of things.
Stopping you. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I happen to be Dr. Pratik sir's student.
Pretty sure that AI cannot match a good cartoonist punches in the ring. So AI will always be knocked out as far as cartooning is concerned. I don't know about music or other kinds of literature, but as far as cartooning is concerned, I can assure you that AI will always be knocked out in the ring. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I'm here. So I want to know how you manage all your activities now in a very busy schedules of everyday life from morning till night. So how do you find the times, whether you work early on the mornings or in the nights, and we either use modern techniques like digital technologies and or you simply use your pen and papers and pencils, or
I've actually never kept a schedule. I do what I like at a given hour. But over the last few years, I've become a little systematic because my back has taken a toll on, on itself for keeping so busy. And so I'm at that stage of my life where I'm beginning to prioritize my health and well-being over work. Sorry to burst the bubble. But yeah, I think that's very important. And yeah, having learned it the hard way, I would advocate it to you as well. If you're somebody who tends to overwork or immerse, what people call workaholics. I used to be that, and I've learned the hard way that it's not, the way to go. And yeah, I think other activities that I like to do, like music and reading, are always very enriching. Even cooking, it's a very relaxing activity for me, and even for my back, for that matter. So yeah, I think I enjoy doing whatever enriches and relaxes me, and I prioritize that.
Good evening. I am S.M. Joshi. by whom you inspired to start your career as a cartoonist? And another question, are you interested to cover the aspect of political present going on, which may be a controversy for the ruling party as well as non-ruling party?
Understood.
Please.
So, if there is one person I would like to name, the reason why I'm a cartoonist is Gendy Tartakovsky. He is a Russian-American animator. He created Dexter's Lab. I'm sure not many of you would know. Oh, I see for the last 3 years at least, I've been joining online and drawing about whatever is discussed at the COP26, 27, hopefully this. Well, you know, we often, when we engage with news about, say, a war or about, you know, a political overhaul in a given part of the world, we fail to acknowledge that somewhere deep down it is connected to the depletion of nature. If you look at Russia and Ukraine, for example, Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe, which means that there is, you know, there is a disturbance going on. If there is a war going on, take India and Pakistan, for example, the Indus is the crux of the whole conflict. So nature is in, no, I don't think this is from my work because I haven't read much of Asterix. No. Oh, no.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks a lot for moderating this session so wonderfully. It was definitely more entertaining than the India-Pakistan match, 100%.
That's a real honor. Thank you, everyone.
And thanks a lot, Rohan. Thank you very much. I think this is the first time that I'm realizing that someone can make a difference. One director of Sanskar Vidya Sagar School, who is here with us to present it to Rohan. Manoki, please join us.